I used to work as a watchman at a school, where my daily responsibility was to arrive early, open all the classrooms, and lock them after school hours. One day, a new teacher named Clara joined the school. She was very kind and beautiful, and always behaved very politely with me. One morning, I was surprised to find her at school before me, which was unusual since I was always the first to arrive. I thought she must be coming early because she was new and would start coming late after some days, but she continued to come before me every day and would let me leave early at dismissal. I was happy about that. Since Clara joined, strange things started happening at the school. In one instance, while fixing a chair in my classroom at dismissal, I glanced at the next room and was shocked. David was the security guard, known for his strictness and honesty. He never wasted time talking or made friends at school. He worked at a private school nearby, lived in a rented room, and his worn-out clothes and plastic shoes reflected his poverty. The principal, Mrs. Johnson, admired David's dedication and had increased his salary after offering financial help, which he politely refused, insisting on earning honestly. One day, Clara arrived by auto rickshaw, but David stopped her at the gate, asking for the principal's permission before letting her in. Clara smiled, appreciating David's integrity, and told him about the previous guard who allowed people in without checks. David warned her to be careful, as the principal listens to everything, joking that she could get him fired. Clara assured him she wouldn't do that and was there to meet the principal, who had invited her for a teaching job. After Clara praised David's honesty to the principal, who confirmed it by recalling how David had returned her purse once, Clara was hired as a teacher. She quickly won the principal's trust and even brought homemade pudding that the principal loved, forming a close bond. Clara felt sympathy for David's simple and tough life. The principal even tried to gift him a better phone to cheer him up, but David refused, uninterested in such things. Some staff members envied David because no one else dared to talk to the principal like he did. David and Clara often visited Principal Mrs. Johnson's home and helped her with household tasks. The school clerks would sarcastically stop David and say, "Tell us what magic potion you gave the principal that she laughs and chats with you so much." But David paid no attention and never made friends. He focused on his work and didn't see anyone there as worth befriending. Though people acted nice in front of him, behind his back they spoke ill of him to Mrs. Johnson, who always scolded them because she knew they were just jealous and spreading lies. Some even started calling David Clara's admirer, but he ignored those comments. Other teachers would also taunt Clara, but she always responded kindly and gently. A few good teachers became her friends, but many grew envious. One day, preparations began at Mrs. Johnson's house for her son's wedding, and she asked David to come help after school, which she also mentioned to Clara. But Clara politely refused because her mother was unwell and she had to feed her at home. From then on, Clara would gently tell David to leave early, saying she'd lock the school herself after finishing up. David agreed easily and started leaving earlier every day. Clara asked him not to tell the principal, saying it would only worry her, and David respected her request, giving her the school keys. Clara was happy with David and always spoke to him warmly. Time passed, and one day just before dismissal, Clara got a call from her father saying her mother had fainted and was taken to the hospital with a head injury. Clara started crying, and Mrs. Johnson, seeing her upset, handed her car keys to David and some money, asking him to take Clara to the hospital and pay for medicines without telling Clara about the money. David comforted Clara during the ride, and she felt better. At the crowded government hospital, they struggled to find the room until her father guided them to the emergency ward. Clara ran to her mother and hugged her. David greeted her father, who warmly welcomed him because Clara often spoke of David and Mrs. Johnson. David took Clara's father outside and handed him the money from Mrs. Johnson, insisting he take it. Clara's father agreed and asked to speak to Mrs. Johnson, thanking her on the phone while she praised Clara, making him proud. David stayed at the hospital until Clara's mother was discharged and then drove them home. As he was about to leave, Clara offered him tea as a thank you, but he politely declined, promising to return on Sunday since he had the principal's car. Clara's father invited him for lunch, sharing that they were a poor family. He washed clothes at a laundromat, lived in a rented house, and Clara was their only daughter. She loved studying and had completed her master's degree. Mrs. Johnson had met her in a mall while Clara was talking to a friend about job opportunities, overheard the conversation, and offered her a teaching job at her newly opened school. Though the salary was low, they were content, and Mrs. Johnson had promised to increase it once the school grew. As they chatted, Clara brought tea in an old kitchen mug. Her father urged David to drink it. Smiling, David quickly sipped the tea, but just then Mrs. Johnson called to ask about Clara's mother. David handed the phone to Clara. After the call, he stood up to leave. Clara's father asked him to finish his tea, but David said he had to go and would visit again on Sunday, saying he was happy to have met them. When he asked about Clara's mother's health, she just nodded in response. David didn't talk much politely even though Clara's father had spoken very nicely to him. He quickly left and returned the principal's car. The principal gave Clara a week off, saying parents are very important and should be cared for, and even increased her salary. David's heart felt empty without Clara, and he grew sad in her absence. The principal noticed David's sadness and realized he liked Clara. The whole school staff had already sensed David's infatuation and cared for him like his admirers, but Clara paid no attention to David, sometimes suspecting he was interested in her but dismissing it as a misunderstanding. After David left, Clara's mother argued with her father about why they were giving so much respect and treats to a mere security guard like David, acting as if he were a wealthy man's son. Clara's father angrily said she was talking as if she herself was a rich woman, insisting David was a good man who had honestly helped them and returned the principal's money to him. Clara's mother dismissed this, saying he was just the principal's employee and it wasn't a big deal. She also scolded Clara for preparing new cups and biscuits for David's tea, saying they should just serve him in the regular old cups used at home, and if anyone deserved respect, it was the principal who had done so much for them. Clara's father said the principal was a rich woman but kind enough to talk to people like them, and David was a good guy who the principal praised endlessly. Clara's mother was sharp and had already noticed David's interest in Clara. Though marriage proposals were coming for Clara from families like theirs, her mother wanted a wealthy match. Days passed, and Sunday arrived. Clara's father invited David and the principal for a meal, ignoring his wife's anger. The principal happily agreed to come along with David, showing no class or wealth arrogance and treating everyone equally. Clara was very happy to hear the principal would join them. The next day, Clara's mother cooked well with Clara's help. Usually, if her mood was bad, she refused to cook, but since the principal was coming, she didn't spare any effort. When David arrived with the principal wearing one of his few worn-out clothes, the principal offered him a new suit, but he declined. His shoes were old and worn too, yet he happily came in the principal's car. Clara's mother treated the principal with utmost respect but barely spoke to David. Clara's father, on the other hand, treated David with great respect and conversation, not letting him feel out of place, even feeding him despite his shyness. David was overjoyed to see Clara after so long and was full of energy. The principal ate heartily and packed some food to take home, having loved the meal so much. She had brought half a bakery's worth of goodies when she arrived, making Clara's mother very happy, especially since the principal had also given them a good amount of cash. After they left, Clara's mother grumbled about David, saying she cooked for the principal, not for that David, and questioned who hosts such people. Clara's father told her she always puts anyone with money on a pedestal and needed to learn to recognize good people. He said they were lucky the principal was a kind and respectable woman because not all rich people were the same. Clara's mother's health improved, and she started doing housework again. Clara rejoined school on Monday and resumed sending David home early before the day ended, which he obeyed, going straight to the principal's house, where he was now helping supervise the wedding preparations. David was worried because Clara often told him to leave early while she stayed late, which felt strange to him. One day, David secretly returned to school and watched Clara from a distance as she danced with some girls upstairs. Surprised and upset, he confronted her, asking what the show was. Clara was startled and asked why he was there. He said he came to see her actions. She told the dancing girls to leave and then explained to David that she taught dance once to a girl for a school drama, who was so happy she asked Clara to teach her fully and even offered to pay. Clara was glad and gathered more girls to teach dance. Knowing Clara's difficult home situation, she used the principal's kindness and David's gentle nature to conduct dance classes at school. "Please forgive me and don't tell the principal, or else I'll lose her trust and break her heart. I promise I won't do this again, and I'll stop teaching dance to everyone." David took a deep breath and said, "I can keep your secret only on one condition, that you trust me and marry me. This isn't blackmail, it's just my passionate love. I love you and can't live without you." Hearing this, Clara got angry and said, "Go ahead, tell the principal." "Wait, I'll call her right now and confess everything. I'm sure she'll forgive me." She scolded David for hiding such a big thing and reminded him of their differences. He hadn't even finished high school while she had a master's degree. She was confident she'd get a good job someday and marry an educated man like herself. She told him to stop dreaming about her and marry someone with less education like himself. David calmly said he trusted God to fulfill his dreams. Clara laughed angrily, saying she couldn't believe what he was saying, then called the principal, tearfully confessing everything, including David's marriage proposal. The principal sighed deeply and reassured Clara not to be so worried. While she had made some mistakes and deserved punishment, it could wait. Clara apologized and ended the call, her troubled face showing her worries. Clara's mother wanted her to marry a wealthy man, believing Clara's beauty deserved that. She urged Clara to befriend rich people, hoping marriage would come through them, which would improve both their fortunes. Clara reluctantly made rich friends and never missed their social events, while her father worked at a laundry where his boss gave him clothes to wash at home, which Clara's mother sometimes took to use for social appearances and forced Clara to wear such clothes, which Clara hated. Despite her mother's efforts, Clara's luck didn't change. No one liked her for marriage, while her wealthy friends found good matches. After returning from a friend's event, Clara refused to continue such pretense, and her mother reluctantly accepted. They hired a marriage broker to find a wealthy match, but none came due to their poor circumstances. Her mother was even willing to consider an older rich man, but still no one agreed. Meanwhile, David spoke to Clara's father about marrying Clara. Her father said to meet at home, and after the meeting, he quickly agreed to the match, despite her mother's protests. She caused a lot of trouble, but her father ignored her and arranged a simple temple wedding. Clara agreed reluctantly, having argued with her mother over it, but sided with her father because she didn't want to add to his worries. David would at least support her parents in their old age, so she agreed to marry him. When Clara's father confronted her mother, she finally accepted but never looked at David or gave him respect as a son-in-law. David and Clara married in a nearby temple. David's mother often scolded Clara harshly, but David never reacted and only smiled, unaffected by his mother's words. He was happy with Clara and told her that although poverty kept him from buying expensive clothes, he could at least afford rented ones. Clara said she didn't want rented expensive clothes, she would be happier in her simple outfits. When the principal heard this, she was very happy, blessed them, and spoke to Clara warmly, saying she knew the big difference in their education, but believe me, except for David's lack of formal education, he had every quality in him. Clara's principal truly believed that since Clara bowed her head for her father's happiness, she would always be happy and never regret her decision because David loved her deeply. Eventually, Clara and David were married in a simple church ceremony, and Principal Mrs. Thompson joyfully attended. When she offered them a wedding gift, David politely refused, saying he wanted to wear his own clothes on such a special day. Clara's father was deeply moved by David's humility and proudly told everyone that by giving away a daughter, he had gained a son. David would always meet Clara's father after work and talk to him, trying to bring joy to his aging face. Now that her father could no longer work, David and Clara took on the full responsibility of the household. David still worked as a security guard, but a month into their marriage, Mrs. Thompson doubled his salary. David refused, saying she shouldn't take a loss for his sake. She replied that she had transferred him to office accounting duties because she trusted he could handle it well since he had completed high school. She even said he could ask his wife Clara for help, as she was very educated. David was grateful and went home to give his entire salary to Clara's father, saying, "You are now my father, maybe not by blood, but by bond." Clara convinced her father to accept the money, or else David's heart would break. Clara's mother, however, never accepted David, always insulting him, saying her beautiful daughter had been ruined by an illiterate man. She believed Clara was meant to live in luxury. Despite all this, David remained silent and respectful. Eventually, David bought a bike on installments, and he and Clara started going to school together, happy as ever. Clara's friends mocked her for marrying an uneducated guard, but she confidently replied that she was happier than ever. One Sunday, as they were preparing to go out, David got a call saying his mother, Mrs. Anderson, was very ill. He rushed with Clara and her father, Mr. Parker, to a large house. Inside, his parents were shocked to see Clara and welcomed her warmly. David's mother embraced Clara and proudly said she was beautiful. They told her father that David was their only son, born with a silver spoon. But due to constant fights between his parents, his father, Mr. Anderson, had left town. Despite David's pleas, he left. Later, his mother also left the house, ignoring David's cries to stay. David, left alone, took his high school diploma and a small amount of money, and left to work as a guard at Mrs. Thompson's school. That's where he met Clara. Hearing all this, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson reconciled and were overwhelmed with guilt. They staged the illness to bring David back. David tearfully told them that while they were consumed by pride and arguments, he had suffered a lonely childhood. Their fights haunted his nights, and they never once considered how scared and isolated he felt. He said that the peace and love he found in poverty with Clara and her father, and the respect from Principal Mrs. Thompson, who treated him like a son despite being just a guard, was worth more than all their wealth. They decided to attend Clara and David's wedding as if it were their own sons. David's father, in tears, hugged him and asked for forgiveness. He wanted Clara's father, Mr. Parker, to live with them, but Mr. Parker and his wife declined. Mrs. Parker later told her husband that the luxurious home of Clara's in-laws made her feel suffocated and she was relieved he hadn't agreed to stay. She admitted that the peace she found in their humble home couldn't be replaced, and that no matter how poor, a person is king in their own house. She also confessed that in her greed, she secretly wore and forced Clara to wear David's laundered clothes, despite Clara's hesitation. Mr. Parker told her to seek forgiveness from God and thanked him that Clara married such a good man. They had assumed David was poor, but he turned out to be the richest in character. He was surprised that Mrs. Parker didn't react excitedly to David's wealth but remained calm. She admitted, now she understood that wealth doesn't matter if the person is good. She felt guilty for how badly she had treated David and promised to apologize when she got the chance. Meanwhile, Clara sat in her grand bedroom as David held her hand lovingly and promised to give her every happiness, take her shopping, and show her the world. Clara replied that from the first day, he had already given her the world, and even sitting behind him on a bike gave her joy that no luxury could. She wasn't hungry for wealth. David shared that he had told Principal Mrs. Thompson his truth after the wedding, and she was both shocked and thrilled for Clara's future. Clara said she'd be happiest if her father always had support, and David promised they would live together with her parents. His father had even insisted they bring them to live with them. Clara and David went to her parents' home to bring them along, but they refused. Mrs. Parker said they were already deeply grateful and happy where they were, and only wanted visits from their children. She folded her hands and asked for forgiveness for all the disrespect she had shown. David took her hands and told her not to embarrass him. He never held anything against her and considered her like his own mother. He invited them again, but she only declined the idea of moving in, agreeing to everything else. Mr. Parker added they were fine where they were, but David insisted it wasn't just his house, it was theirs too. He reassured them that even his father wanted them to come and would be happy. Clara also convinced them, saying the rainy season would bring trouble to their home. Finally, they agreed. David took them in his big black car to his luxurious home, where his family welcomed them with warmth and respect. Everyone began living happily together. Months later, Clara became pregnant and gave birth to a beautiful baby girl they named Parnadi, a name inspired by both Clara and David. Her grandparents loved her dearly, bringing joy into everyone's life. Friends, we hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for updates.